currently. We still have some missing features in the product, so I start to work with REST API, and I wrote some PowerShell script to help with all the steps of a project, the implementation, the configuration, the update, and the reporting. So here is my company. So I'm based in US, I'm French, and I moved in US a little bit more than 2 years ago. I lived in Florida, in Tampa. I am an independent consultant, so as I told you, I've been involved with Strix Consulting for some project and other company in the US, and I am one of the Tampa CGC leader. And you can follow me on Twitter or on my blog, on open.com.
So, I'm Samuel Legrand. I'm an independent consultant working in France, Paris. I'm a French COGC leader with Stéphane Thirion. My Twitter account, my blog. I'm a TP.
He doesn't have the skills to use the P.
Yeah. And I'm also a VMware vExpert.
So the agenda today will be the following. So what is REST API? We'll try to explain you what is exactly REST API, how it works, the PowerShell script, the tools for configuration and implementation, the tool for what we explain the run, the day-to-day administration, the tool for the reports, and question answer at the end if you have some questions.
I will try to answer them. So what is REST API? REST API is an API. So it stands for Application Programming Interface. How it's working, it's basically a web browser, REST client, or even a Windows application that can call APIs. The following diagram is showing that the web browser is talking to a web service using API commands to talk to a database where the configuration or whatever you want to do is stored. So REST API is composed of 4 operations called CRUD, C-R-U-D. So you have POST to create new data. You have GET that is used to read and receiving data in a convenient format, normally JSON. You can update with PUT, and you can delete some information using the delete command. It relies highly on HTTP, so the default port are 80 or 443 if you want to use HTTPS. We'll see that it's not the case for XenMobile because we decide to use a strange port to make it easier. It's your turn.
It's mine.
Yes.
Okay. So with REST API, you can call services, and to do that, you have multiple ways to do that. So you can use a REST client. So for example, I use the advanced REST client, which is a Google extension for Google Chrome browser. And so we'll show you after how it's working. The fact is that since end of last year, Citrix provide a new role-based access control role within the console to permit you to create specific role-based access for only API access and not admin all the stuff. So here is how you can create one. So within the console, you need to go in the settings, which is the wheel here on top right. When you are in the settings, you need to click on role-based access control and add a user. So the thing here is that you will need to select public API access as well as a dashboard. I mean dashboard or another role. You need at least 2 to be able to create the user, and after you will select which user you want the role-based access control to be applied, and just click on next, and that's it. Add. Tu peux zoomer, on voit rien.
Why?
No, you can zoom.
Yeah, you can read
It's
it.
not clear.
Okay.
Click on next. Okay. So here is how it's working with the advanced REST client for Google Chrome. So you need to provide the URL. So here I will show you many different way to access it. So it's a cloud version there, because all the REST API are still working on-premise or in the cloud. So you need to select the body type, which is application JSON, provide login name and password, and send the command. It's going too quick, but at the end you see that we receive a token which is valid by default for 60 minutes. If we try to access with an IP, it's not working because by default there is a verification of the certificate which is presented. So if you see there is a button on the top right, you can just enable a feature to be able to retrieve the same token using the IP instead of the fully qualified domain name of the server.
So PowerShell script. Citrix is providing a huge PDF file containing all the REST PDF documentation. At least we have a correct documentation for this part from Citrix, which is not the time for all the products. But for XenMobile, they invest on the documentation, which is quite cool. We are almost able to do almost everything that is possible in the console using REST API calls. So the first thing you need to do is to create a token, as Arnaud explained. So the first part of each script you will make is something like this. And once you have the token, you will be able to retry configuration, to push new configuration, and so on. So based on these facts, creating a PowerShell script could be really interesting. So we decided to try to do it, and it seems that it's helpful for a lot of customers. So the first part is authentication. So as I already mentioned, the default port 443 is not the right one for to connect to the XMS service. So it's 4443. The first thing is you need to authenticate and retype the token. So it's good. Let's play.
Is that the token that you get from the cloud, right? From the portal?
No, it's the token is what you create to authenticate with XenMobile server. So
right.
If it's on the cloud, it's the token is for.
So it's not that remote is the case, is it?
It's.
Sorry?
No, I was saying it's not that remote is the case in like within a cloud, is it?
No, because the fact is right now there is no more major update for the on-premise version. So if you want the latest version and the latest feature to administer your XenMobile environment, you need to migrate in the cloud.
Right.
Which is a problem for most of customers. I mean, a lot of people put a lot of money in their on-premise environment. They don't want to migrate in the cloud for many reasons. And for example, I got a customer in France. I went there last year, at the end of the year, for issue remediation. And the customer, I mean, it's part of a group. The parent company is using AirWatch, and they are using XenMobile because they are using this because in the past they used Denrise before the acquisition, so they're still using it. And they told me if we need to migrate in the cloud, it was before Citrix provided a way to migrate in the cloud without re-enrollment of the device. But they use 8,000 devices, and they told me if we need to migrate in the cloud and need to re-enroll our device, probably we will migrate
to another solution.
To AirWatch.
So is it like a strategy now that the on-premise will die?
For XenMobile?
Yeah, in the next 3 years, there will not be any more support for on-premise.
But that makes sense. If you look at the way that mobile devices are updated, like daily or weekly, I think.
Like Android devices.
If you want, but still, you need to stay updated, and it's quite hard for a large customer to update their XenMobile server to follow the updates from Android or Apple. So it's I think it's one of the cool things that Citrix is doing by moving to the cloud is that don't care about updates. We are taking in charge this part, so
And we will make more money.
Also, but still.
And yeah, and the other thing is that I mean, even if Citrix stopped the support of the product, I mean, we still see most of us today customers which are still using XP.
Yeah.
So you can still use the product without any update because you will not need these features.
Yeah.
So probably the product will stay on site for many years.
Yep.
For the cloud deployments, is Citrix designating dedicated cloud resources versus multi-tenant?
Yeah.
Do they offer that separation or choice for the customer?
I mean, the separation between each customer.
Yeah, for example, like on the AirWatch side,
Yeah.
the customer goes to the cloud, it can be a dedicated cloud tenant, which means they can migrate their database from on-premise to the cloud. Or it's a multi-tenant cloud tenant, and therefore it's a shared resource and delivered as a service. So the customer doesn't have much choice of like version upgrades and migrations.
Yeah. So for Citrix, it's shared as well. For example, the license server is shared. So if you know a little bit how it's working, within the console, when you are on-premise, you have settings and you can see which is the license server assigned to the XenMobile and how many licenses are consumed. In the cloud, it's not possible because it's a shared license server and it's not visible for each customer. However, when you migrate in the cloud, so the process is simple. It's an extract. You make a backup of your local database, you provide it to Citrix, and Citrix update the database in the cloud on a shared database server. So you will have your own console within Citrix Cloud, but you will not be able to migrate on your own all the things and the configuration you have on your database. It will be done by Citrix with some script.
Everything is managed by Citrix for this stuff. So for the authentication,
Yeah, as Sam told, I mean the first part of each script is based with the same feature, which is the authentication. So here is how it's working. So you can provide the IP or the fully qualified domain name because there is a bypass of the certificate check in the script. After providing the IP of the FQDN or the FQDN name, we check that the host is up and running. We check that the admin port is opened, and you are prompt for credentials. So you need to provide the right credentials to be able to log and retrieve the token. So you got an example here in red that the password or username was incorrect, and you can see we use it with the IP as well as with the FQDN of the server in the cloud.
So you connect over 4443 not just to local servers but also to the cloud?
yeah.
Correct.
Wow. That's
It's by default. I mean, if you go in the cloud, it's 4443. When you have your on-premise configuration, because the fact is that, as I told at the beginning, the token is 60 minutes valid. You can change the server properties for that. But I got customer. They are creating a load balance virtual server on Netscaler to provide access to the admin port with 443
right.
with SSL bridging. Because they don't want the user to provide a column 4443 at the end of the URL when they want to administer it. White spot.
Oh no.
Click.
So the script. So we created multiple scripts for different purposes. We tried to have three types of scripts. The first one are for configuration and implementation. The second one are for run daily operation. How we can make administrator life better, and the reporting, which this part is based on Carl Webster scripts. So thank you to him. So me.
As well. So for configuration and implementation, so as Sam told, we can do a lot of things. However, we are still limited by what REST API allowed us. So here is a list of all the things we are able to do with the script. However, if you are familiar with XenMobile, so you can see that we cannot do everything. So quickly, we can upload an MDX. However, we cannot put any settings by default within the MDX. So when you configure an MDX, you upload the MDX on the console, and after you need to provide some settings. For example, with Secure Web, the URL of the Exchange server, and some other stuff, we cannot do that by default. We cannot upload non-B64 certificate. So an unencrypted certificate can be uploaded, but not encrypted one with the private key. So we are still looking and hoping that Citrix will provide this type of feature in the future. But since I think the last PDF documentation was released end of last year. So even if there is new version, the PDF REST API documentation provided by Citrix is not updated. There is no more feature provided for now. So for the, as I told you, so the MDX, you cannot upload settings. However, so what is an MDX? It's like a container, it's a zip file. So you can just rename from MDX to zip, unzip the file, and you will see that you got some icon for the icon of the application, as well as some files. One of those files is a policy-metadata.xml file, which contains all the settings. So here, as you can see, you can change manually. So here it's the mail server. So you can change the settings, rezip the file, and upload the MDX. So we are still working on that. So the fact is, we would like to provide all the settings, extract the MDX, put the settings if they are different from the default one, and recreate the MDX to be able to push settings with the configuration file. But it's a lot of work.
Yeah, here each setting is has its own part, and you can. So if you need to configure the file, you need to unzip, modify, rezip. The issue is that we are not sure about the support of this kind of operation, but it's working.
Even if it's not supported, it will not stop us to try to do it. Okay, lunch.
Here,
No, it's not working.
not touch.
No,
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
So here it's an example of a script. So this script is updating the secure apps on your server. So the fact is that for the public application, you can push public application on devices. You got a button, you can click on the button, it will check on the public store if there is an update, and if there is an update, you will be prompt if you want to update it or not. The fact is that Citrix is releasing for the 8th last month a newer version every month. Every month you got a newer version of all the secure apps. I mean, for now it's focused on share file, secure web, and secure mail. So we thought that creating a script that will enable this, so it allows you to update with the script all the secure apps. So as you saw, it took probably less than a minute to do it. If you want to do it manually, it's a repetitive task. You need to upload the MDX on each operating system, so for Android and iOS, and for each application. So using this script, it's less than a minute, and you can run it
Against your XenMobile, again, on-prem
or in the cloud.
So if it's all in the cloud, why do you update the local server then? Or because it syncs then with the cloud, or what part is in the cloud?
So the Xen server is in the cloud.
Right.
Okay,
XenMobile.
the XenMobile, sorry,
Yeah.
not the Xen server.
the Xen server and
The
the
Xen server
cloud.
is-
Please.
The XenMobile
Please.
is in the cloud. However, I mean, Citrix provides you the XenMobile in the cloud, but even if you use secure apps, you can use XenMobile without using secure apps from Citrix. So if you are using secure apps, Citrix will provide an update of secure apps on the website to allow you to download and upload, but they will not upload secure apps for you.
They do the
You need
maintenance
to
phase,
administer, they will just provide you,
an
I mean,
empty box.
Even with the cloud.
yeah, even with the cloud, they will update all the XenMobile stuff, but not the application, even if it's Citrix application.
Right.
You need to manage your APNS, all your certificate. So you still need to administer the platform. The fact is that you don't need to take care about all the updates. The updates will be done by Citrix.
So it's the same thing like with XenNest and XenApp.
More or
Just
less.
basically put a
Yeah.
server outside there.
The hard thing is to manage your application on XenApp. The hard thing is to manage the environment of device and blah blah blah. So almost the same. Reporting. So, as Arnaud was working on a lot of XenMobile projects, he figured out that documenting the installation was a time-consuming thing. So he decided to create a documentation script based on a Carl Webster framework. So why do you need to have an updated documentation? Because each time you make upgrade or configuration change, you need to rerun the script and to be able to keep it for like a month or 2 months. Every month I launch this updated documentation script and no?
Yeah, you miss an E. Not.
Not? Okay. Fine. It's you. So yeah, you launch the script every month, and if something goes wrong, if something is not working, you can go to the documentation script and see what has been changed since it was working. So it's time consuming, as I already said, not really fun to keep documentation up to date. So the script creates a report of the configuration.
Also like 5,000 pages in the end?
No,
Like
I mean it depends. It depends of the, because you will see when Sam will run the script.
Launch the script.
I cannot click on the.
So your spotlight
No.
center stick cannot do that.
It's PowerPoint shit.
Regarde arrière.
Look, I can do
So,
it.
yeah, it depends. I mean, as I told you, so last year when I was in France, I got 8,000 devices enrolled. So the script report all the enrolled device as well as all the properties of all the application. And the customer got a lot of applications. So in this case, yeah, you can have 400 or 500 pages. So the same thing here, when you launch the script, so you need to authenticate, and after you will check. So it's the template from Carl, so you can create PDF documentation, docx, HTML or TXT files. So just to let you know, I worked with someone from Choice last week because she got some issue with a customer. The authentication part of the script does not work with PowerShell 3. You need at least PowerShell version 4. But I mean, I have a customer right now which is still using PowerShell 1. But it's not for XenMobile. So
This script is 4.
4 at least, yeah. PowerShell 4 at least. I mean, when I developed the script, I used the last version of PowerShell. I don't want to have all the different versions to be able to test. I mean, I can just imagine that every administrator, because it's not for everyone, will update to the latest version of PowerShell. So here you cannot see, but it's retrieving all the certificate as well as the notification server, the Netscaler configuration, all the application settings in details, as well as the client properties, server properties, and world devices. I mean, all the things which mean to be important from my experience. And but it can be updated if needed.
So,
I mean,
so this script runs on what kind of company? How many users are on this?
you will see. It will open after the report. I think I run this script on a cloud from one of my customers. And sorry, we will see when it will scroll down. You will see the number. So here are all the application settings for each application. So for each version, Android and iOS, as well as the LDAP configuration. So no, it's 2 devices. So it was my lab. This one, it was my lab. So with 2 onboard devices, one of my lab. And as you probably can see or not, I think it's 50 pages. Yeah.
You can charge like crazy for this.
I know. But the only question is, it's like with the Carl's script. After having 800 pages, who reads it? You know, it has to be
I
kind
mean,
of like summarized in a more compact way.
I really think it's not for in order to read. It's when you want to.
It's a snapshot in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for example, you can create a scheduled task running the script every month and create a PDF file and put it somewhere on a shared folder and keep track. So if you have an issue one day, you can just read the document and.
Yes.
I mean, most of the script, so this one I did it because working on the different XenMobile project, I need some type of information for the customer. And you can imagine that doing this manually took a long time to retrieve all the settings within the console. So this is why I worked on this script. All the other script, it was based on customer request. So I got some customer for which I was working, asked me how to do this or this. The script can do things that the web console do not allow. So for example, I think you can go to to the question.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because one of the scripts that is really interesting is one based on the delivery group. So the guy has
push notification.
Push notification. So the client, the customer was requesting to how can I send a message to all my users or all my iOS users or all my delivery group user, and in the console you can only send a message or a push notification to only one device at a time. So if you have like hundreds of users, it will take a long time to select each user. So basically what Arno made is the script is just taking all the users from the delivery group and send the notification in one time. So it's just a way to earn time on the daily operation. The reporting is more for us consultant to give, hey, here is your documentation, and the customer is happy to have like a crazy amounts of pages and all of the details. On a day-to-day, it's not so useful than launch specific operations that are not allowed by the console, or which can take like half an hour to make it happen with the console. If you just double click on the script and come back and that's done, I think it can be a real cost saver for companies.
And one other script which is interesting, I mean, if you know a little bit how it's working, XenMobile. So when you got user license or device license, I mean, in the cloud, you don't have any difference, but on premise you have the difference. And the fact is that as all the Citrix product, you got an overhead of 10% when you purchase license. However, if a user enroll a device and leave the company, for example, or doesn't connect anymore, the license is not released. So the device appears as inactive in the console. So I was asked by a customer, how can I list all my inactive device and delete the inactive device? Because if the device is inactive, probably the user left the company or will not connect anymore, and I want to keep back my license for my other users.
So you can script that with PowerShell as well.
Yeah, so I did this script as well. By default, the inactive device timer is 120 days, but you can change it as well in the server property. I got another script to change it. So you can change it. It will check what is the default inactivity timer and retrieve a list of license, compare if it's active or inactive, and ask you if you want to delete, confirm the deletion, and you will retrieve your license after. So this type of script, all the script can be found on my blog. There is some tabs, and there is one tab which is the script tab, and there is, I think, around 14 or 15 scripts. So if there is no other question, thank you.
Thank you.